Eads. We're awaiting Syracuse Athletics' introduction of new Syracuse men's basketball head coach Adrian Autry. Hasn't even been 48 hours since SU announced that the longtime head coach Jim Boeheim would not be returning to Syracuse. And today we learned that Adrian Autry is the new head coach of SU basketball.
It's been a crazy 48 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, my entire Twitter feed right now, all Jim Boeheim. He was number 24 on U.S. trending topics this morning, I believe.
I bet so, if not higher. That's kind of surprising, actually. I was walking home just kind of on my sidewalk near my house, and I saw a tweet. I was like, Jim Boeheim's retiring. I was like, of all ways for Jim Boeheim to announce his retirement or me find out, I guess us, that he's retiring, Twitter of all, after 47 years, he was the head coach here for 17,161 days.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments where people are going to ask you, where were you when this came out? Personally, like, I was doing my hair, I was heading here, but, you know, not exactly the most glamorous moment to find out. But, yeah, no, that's a question everybody's going to ask you.
It's crazy. 47 years for Jim Boeheim, and kind of a weird process of him actually leaving, right? Kind of awkward. He had that post-game press conference where he kind of said he gave his retirement speech after the 2003 National Championship ceremony after the Wake Forest game. I watched it. I think you probably did too.
Yep.
It didn't really feel like a retirement speech to me, the way that he phrased it, the way he went about it, but apparently there was maybe some striation between him and the university here, the administration and whatnot, and he just wasn't given the opportunity to come back.
Yeah, well, Adrian Autry, the new head coach of Syracuse basketball, and honestly, he's only the second head coach in our entire lifetime, which is just crazy. I mean, he's being introduced today. There's supposed to be a number of people there at the press conference, including the Boeheim family. They have chairs with their names on them labeled, so theoretically we should see them there, but who knows? Yeah,
we'll see. I hadn't heard if Coach Boeheim would go or not, but I saw a picture on Twitter that there is a chair for Coach Boeheim and the family will be there, which is fair because Coach Autry was an associate for this program for the past couple years or so. Since 2017, he got the promotion. He started as an assistant back in 2011, but way back in the time, he was a man named Red Autry here at Syracuse. He was a McDonald's All-American out of high school, a point guard at Syracuse. He's actually 6th in program history in career assists, so he knows Coach Boeheim. He knows the Coach Boeheim system through and through. He was a player here. Now he's going to be the head coach after being an associate and assistant for years.
Yeah, I mean, he almost went to Virginia Tech to be an associate coach there, but the position opened at Syracuse. And come on, this is his home. He was here forever, played, just became a part of the program, so it was really no shock that he came here. And you know why he is called Red?
What?
He used to be a redhead.
That's true. I did see that on Twitter.
He's bald now, but he was in fact a redhead.
We actually have a picture of what he looked like with that red hair. I don't know if we can roll that right now, but back in high school, he actually had that red hair. He doesn't have it anymore. He doesn't have any hair. But, yeah, as you said, Lawrence Moten said yesterday that's why he had that red nickname, that red hair back in the day, and, of course, was an excellent player here at Syracuse. So that's kind of a crazy story. And a nice trivia question, too. Here's another one. Who was the coach at Syracuse before Boeheim?
Oh, my gosh, I have no idea. Who was it?
Roy Danforth was his name.
Oh,
Last coached here in 1976. So that's a good trivia question to keep in your back pocket for family gatherings and whatnot.
Well, I think we're going to take a live look now at the press conference, get a look at what exactly it's looking like in there. And we've got a speaker up there, you know, probably introducing what's going to be the presser. We don't know, though. We're not sure. But somebody's speaking. Boeheim has arrived. We've heard that. Autry has also arrived. We know that some players are there. We have Joe, Samir, Malik, Jesse. No Judah there at the moment, though.
Yeah, so no Judah Mintz, as we've heard so far, no Benny Williams either, which is really interesting because they kind of made this decision very fast. Like, the season ends.
So fast.
Davian Williamson hits that three-pointer to end the season for Wake Forest winning that game over Syracuse. And then Coach Boeheim's gone an hour or so later, and then Coach Autry's introduced as the head coach on Twitter, now formally getting introduced today. And I think they may have done that for player retention and team retention. And those are two guys that you need to retain if you're Syracuse if you want to be successful next year. I think at least Judah Mintz, your starting point guard, who's a projected NBA draft pick, and then Benny Williams as well.
And Chancellor Kent Syverud is up there, so we're going to go live and take that feed.
Basketball program. It has been exactly 47 years since Syracuse University has had a transition of its head men's basketball coach. It's the end of an amazing era that has helped define not only Syracuse athletics, but this whole university and this whole region. Today is also the start of a really exciting future for this vital program. Today, the torch is being officially passed. It's being passed from one of the winningest coaches of all time and from an upstater who has been incredibly loyal to this program and this university in good times and in bad. It's being passed to another alum who bleeds orange, who played for the Orange, and who has dedicated much of his professional life to the Orange. For nearly 6 decades, Jim Boeheim has devoted his life to his alma mater. Few people can say these days that they began and finished their career at one place, and even fewer can claim to have had the transformative effect and success that we celebrate today. Jim is the winningest coach in Syracuse University history. Given the realities of college athletics today, it is highly unlikely there ever will be another person at Syracuse or at any other school who will replicate Jim's achievements, which are on the wall behind me in part. I am deeply grateful to Jim and to his family for all they've done through the ups and downs of all these years. And I am pleased to know that John Wildhack and Jim and I are going to be working together in the future for the good of the program and this university. You'll be hearing from Jim in a moment. But first, I want to congratulate Adrian Autry on this exciting next chapter in his coaching career. I have watched many men's and women's Syracuse University basketball games for the last 50 years, and I am thrilled and optimistic as we all see what Coach Autry is going to do leading this program. And I say that because Adrian already has been a driving force in the success of the men's basketball program here. Now, head coach Autry represents the future. His love of the Orange brought him back to Syracuse in 2011, but it is his character and his experience and his talent and his passion for the game that explain why he is our next head coach. Congratulations, Adrian. Thank you for doing this, and go Orange.
Thank you, Chancellor. I would now like to welcome Director of Athletics, John Wildhack, to the podium.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Chancellor. And Chancellor, thank you for your commitment and support to not only this program, but to Syracuse University Athletics, one of our biggest fans, and for supporting every single one of our 600 student athletes. Thank you. Good morning and welcome, everyone. As the Chancellor shared, we're here today to celebrate 2 great men, 2 great Orange ambassadors, 2 great alumni, and 2 Orange legends. Coach Boeheim, congratulations on a remarkable career. I'm going to share a little story. As Coach Boeheim, like you, I started my time at Syracuse as a student. In fact, I interviewed you for a television show I was producing for one of my classes in Newhouse. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. You made it very clear that I had 10 minutes of your time and not 1 second more. I was very careful to stay within that time frame. When I was done, you looked at me and you said, "Stay for practice and interview any player you want." I stayed for practice. I interviewed a number of players. I got an A in that class, so thank you. As a student, I witnessed firsthand your building of a basketball powerhouse. We couldn't wait to get to Manly on game day and be part of the Manly Zoo. For so many of us alums, you're one of the reasons that we chose Syracuse. The camaraderie you and this program have created, the spirit and the pride felt when we packed Manly and now the Dome, and the level of greatness and success that you've achieved. It's all nothing short of extraordinary. And speaking of extraordinary, let's talk some numbers. 35 NCAA appearances, 5 Final Fours, 2003 national champion, 20 Sweet 16 appearances, 20 Sweet 16 appearances, second winningest coach of all time. But it's not only what you did here at Syracuse for the sport. You represented our country with USA Basketball. The staff you served on won 3 consecutive gold medals and totally reconstructed USA Basketball. And of course, your enshrinement in the Naismith Hall of Fame in 2005, introduced fittingly by your teammate and fellow Hall of Famer, Dave Bing. Perhaps your greatest accomplishment is the hundreds of young men you led and you mentored, and the reverence they have for you. We saw it on full display last weekend when we celebrated the 2003 national championship team, and the tributes pouring in from former players over the past 48 hours. What you've done for the game of basketball at Syracuse University is remarkable, but even more impressive is what you've done for Central New York and our community. You're a philanthropist, ambassador, and advocate of this community. The Jim and Julie Boeheim Foundation has transformed countless lives. Because of your and Julie's philanthropy and generosity, so many people have received the care, support, opportunity that they needed to thrive. But of all your accomplishments, I think we know what you're most proud of, being a great father and a loving husband. Julie, Jimmy, Jamie, Buddy, and Elizabeth, they're your all-time starting 5. For the past 6.5 years, I've had the pleasure of working with you. I witnessed firsthand your dedication to our men's basketball program, our university, and our community. As the Chancellor said, I'm excited to work with you and to work with the Chancellor going forward. We will work together with our colleagues to provide the best experience for every single Syracuse University student-athlete. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for Coach Jim Boeheim.
Thank you. Thank you. The only reason I got a standing ovation from the press is because they're all standing up. You know, there's a few things to clarify and get right. I'm thankful for the Chancellor and for John Wildhack's support, unwavering support over these last few years, which have had good, but they've also had some not great moments. After coaching my sons last year, I felt that I should coach this group right over here of young players. The Chancellor and John agreed. For most of this year, I really didn't think about retirement, which is true of every year. I think some people have had me being retired about 10 different times, but I thought about it this year, and obviously when we hit the stretch that we hit where I didn't coach very good, we didn't play very good, we lost those 4 games, I felt that this was the time. Last Friday, I talked to John about this. It was unfortunate that the press conference had to be in the middle of that, and we hadn't had a chance to meet. John, the Chancellor, and I, he's got a lot harder job than I've got. So we really didn't have a solution. So what I said was all I could say, and people took that like they always do, as me not talking or the university not. We had nothing to say other than this has to be worked out. We met for 45 minutes yesterday afternoon. Everything was worked out. Most everything, not quite, but most everything. The basics. I will work with John. I will work with the Chancellor. I'm so thrilled to be at this university and continue I wouldn't know what else to do anyway. I want to thank all the players, especially these guys who were here with it this year. I've had an unbelievable group of players and coaches over these 47 years. I'm not going to name them all. Mostly, I'd like to thank my family, Elizabeth, my very first, and life-changing daughter. My two sons, Jimmy and Buddy, who gave me one of my most rewarding seasons ever last year. And Sissy, who is here with us tonight and is the only one who's won 3 championships. Which she does bring up from time to time. But none of these last 26 years would have been possible without Julie, who has been the best wife a coach could ever have. I'm all right. And she is taking care of our family and our basketball family, making it possible for me to do this job. My staff and coaches have been incredible during these last 2 years, which have obviously been difficult. Al, G-Mac, and Adrian have been great coaches. They are great coaches, all 3. Todd, Pete, Jill, and Kelly have been incredible in the office. And never forget Dan Swirls. I want to get gear next year. Most schools don't have a plan. 99 out of 100 do not have a plan. John Wildhack had a plan. The university had a plan. And I was a part of that plan. And that plan is now in place. And I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be retired. I've felt better the last 2 days than I've felt in 47 years. Adrian Autry. I've known Adrian Autry since he was 16 years old. He had 30 in New York City against Kenny Anderson. And I said, that's a guy we got to get to come to Syracuse. A few years ago, we needed to get him to come back. He came back, and he's a great coach. I think someone said that Adrian should get an older mentor to help him coach. Adrian Autry does not need an older mentor to help him coach. He can coach. He's not here as a recruiter or a player. He's here as a coach. And he knows how to coach. And he's got a couple of assistants that both are good enough to be head coaches. There will be no problem coaching going forward. None. My wife told me not to put that in there. I don't listen to everything. When I was 17 years old, I came to Syracuse, right next door. It was a dirt floor practice field for football. Syracuse had lost 29 straight games in basketball, not football. I never left the school. I'm now 78 years old. And I'm probably most happy that I will never leave here. I'll never leave Syracuse, and I'll never leave Syracuse University. There's been a lot said about they haven't treated me right. That's not true. None of that is true. I would like to thank one group most of all. Cliff Winters hired me 47 years ago right over there. It was 5 people, 2 didn't want me. It was 2-2 really, and Cliff was luckily the chairman. And I told him I was going to Rochester, and he says, no, you're not. It's a story that's been told a little bit, but not a lot. He says, "You're going to coach here." And I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "We're giving you 3 years." I said, "I need 4. I just wanted to make sure I could get 4. I didn't think anything about 47. There's one group, 2 groups I have to talk about. Our fans, I didn't think it would happen. They fooled me. They came in the weather, they came in the winter, they walked across campus. It didn't matter if it was 0. Now if it's 0, the media tells you not to go to the grocery store. They came to the games. 31,000 people, 0, -10 wind chill, 6 feet of snow on the ground. They came to the games. That's what Syracuse basketball is. It's not me. It won't be Adrian. It's not the university. It's the fans. They made our program. And I'd like to say one last thing about the media as I speak to you for the very last time. So good. So glad. I love most of the media. In fact, almost all of it. I've had 2 people cover me for longer than they wanted to, Don and Mike. We never agree. Well, that's an exaggeration. We don't agree, but we keep talking. And you know what? Channel 3 had my press conferences on last night, and that's a funny son of a gun. Me. I never watched one of those press conferences. I'll miss everybody. But most of all, I'll miss those guys and these coaches. But Syracuse basketball is being left in the best of hands. They won't need me. I'll be here every day in my little office someplace. But I was going to leave 61 years ago. I was going to go home. My mother said no. I said, these guys are too good for me. Dave Bang just scored 30 straight points against me. And she said, what about the other guys? And I said, well, maybe. She said, well, then all right, you'll be all right. I can't tell you the love I have for Syracuse University and Syracuse. When I picked Syracuse as the place I wanted to live a long time ago with Rick Pitino and our wives, and they picked Paris, Bermuda, and California, I picked Syracuse. They all walked away. Guess what? I'm still here. Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. We just heard from the man who is the architect of Syracuse basketball in this program. Next, we're going to hear from the man who will build on that incredible history and will boldly lead this program into the future, Coach Adrian Autry. In my time at Syracuse, I've had the pleasure of getting to know Adrian and watch him teach and mentor our young men. And I state with full confidence, as Coach Boeheim did, that Adrian is very well prepared to lead this program. Among the many things that impresses me about Adrian is how hard he's worked at his progression and in his profession. High school coach, AAU coach, director of basketball operations at Virginia Tech, assistant coach at Virginia Tech, assistant coach at Syracuse, and since 2017, associate head coach here. Adrian's depth and breadth of experience, coaching, inspiring young men have made him a great mentor and a terrific recruiter. At Syracuse, he's recruited players for all of our positions. He's worked tirelessly, coaching our forwards. He's mentored some of Syracuse's most talented young alums. Jeremy Grant is having a remarkable NBA career. Tyler Ennis, Tyler Lydon, C.J. Farr, and O'Shea Brissett, just to name a few. He understands player development, nurtures the whole student athlete, and teaches them the emotional intelligence and physical skills needed to be successful at an ACC level and at a national level. His success in recruiting is marked by his deep ties to Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Adrian is extraordinarily well respected in the college basketball arena. The dozens of people I've spoken to over the years have all spoke glowingly of Adrian. He also understands the culture of our program, our department, our university, and this community. He may come across at times as a little laid back, but let me tell you, he is a fierce and intense competitor. And last, he's learned from one of the best, Coach Boeheim. Adrian, along with Jerry McNamara and Alan Griffin, have formed one of the best staffs in the sport, period. All three are here not because they're alums. They're here because they're outstanding coaches. Adrian has the vision and the strategy to successfully and boldly lead our program into the future. And our future is bright. Adrian has earned this opportunity, and he deserves this opportunity. Like Coach Boeheim, Adrian is devoted to family. Congratulations to his wife, Andrea, children, Adrian Jr., Aliyah, Trey, and Nina. Today we begin the next era of Syracuse basketball. And I ask Orange students, alumni, and fans around the world to fully support Coach Autry, his staff, and our student athletes. And let's start showing that support right now and officially welcome to the podium for the first time the eighth head coach, Syracuse University basketball history, Coach Adrian Autry.
A little something for you. You get one side.
Thank you, John, for that kind introduction. I am truly honored and humbled to stand up here as the next head coach of Syracuse University men's basketball program. There are so many people I want to acknowledge, of course. I know I will miss someone, so please accept my apologies now. First and foremost, I would like to give thanks to God for blessing me with an amazing opportunity. I would like to thank Chancellor Kent Severud, the Board of Trustees, John Wildhack, for putting trust in me to lead this Syracuse basketball program into the future. I want to thank Coach Boeheim. "33 years ago, I arrived at Syracuse University as a young man from Harlem, New York. I always say that I was the easiest McDonald's All-American you ever had to recruit. From day one, Coach took me in under his wing as a player and most recently as a coach. It has been an honor to play and coach for you. You and Julie have opened your home and embraced me and my family as your own. There's no doubt that you have created and will leave a legacy of greatness. Your contribution to the Syracuse basketball program, the university, and the city of Syracuse is one to be admired and celebrated. Thank you. Thank you to the former players that are here today, Jim Lee, Dennis, and for all the others who have texted and gave me phone calls. To Jerry, Alan, Pete, and the rest of the staff, thank you for your friendship, partnership, and support. I'm excited to begin this next chapter with you all. To our current student athletes, throughout the recruiting process, I know you all always heard about Syracuse as a family, and we take care of our own. Today is a testament to that. As I stand up here as a former player, proud alum, and now your next head coach, I'm excited for the future and what we're going to do together. To the fans that make up Orange Nation, the ones who fill up the seats in the Loud House, the ones who cheered me on as a player, the ones who support this program whether we're winning or losing, thank you. Representing you makes the Orange, thank you. Representing the Orange is special because of you. There's nowhere else in America like the Dome. I would like to thank Coach Greenberg for giving me my first college coaching job. And to my inner circle of friends, thank you for your support. Finally, and most importantly, my family. My wife, Andrea, love you. My children, Aaliyah, Adrian, Trey, and Nina, all over here today, thank you for your support, for allowing me the freedom to sometimes miss birthdays, anniversaries, and sporting events, all in the name of basketball. You have been with me for every step of the way. You keep me grounded, and you support me in so many ways. When I think about what attracted me and drew me to Syracuse as a player, I think about its history, the rich tradition, and what I refer to as the Orange Standard that was set by Coach Boeheim. The Orange Standard is the history of winning, the history of playing hard and competing for championships, the history of resilience, determination, and grit. As I take over this program as the head coach, it is these standards that will guide us into the future. I am a new voice, a new face with new ideas, but the standards that have helped build this program will not change. So I thank you all for being here today. I thank everyone who has bled orange for decades, those who are new to the Orange family, and those who will join us in the future. Today is an exciting day. I'm going to enjoy this moment with my family, and then tomorrow we will get to work. Thank you, and go Orange.
Thank you, Coach. So we do have a few minutes for some questions for either Coach Autry or John Wildhack. We do have some microphones off to the side around the media. If you're asking a question, we ask that you please stand, identify your name, and what media outlet you represent. So we'll proceed with the first question. Donna, did I see your hand up?
Nobody else is volunteering, Adrian, so I'm going to hop in there. So you mentioned your staff. Can you talk a little bit about Jerry and about Alan and about anybody else you might be considering to fill the rest of that staff?
Yes, I'm very fortunate, like Coach said before. You know, I have an amazing staff, Jerry and Alan, great coaches, great minds. As it comes to building the staff, we're going to take our time. We have some other things right now to take care of, but you know, I'm confident, I'm excited, and very fortunate and lucky to have them with me. So, you know, I'm not going to rush into anything, but you know, we'll get there when we need to.
Gotcha. By the way, congratulations.
Thank you, Don.
Chris.
Congratulations, Adrian. John, you know, I guess, why did the release not mention retirement and include a quote from Jim?
I think what we did with the release is Coach said we've had a plan in place and you had that last Friday. And there are twists and turns to ultimately where you get to, but we got to the right end. Coach Boeheim is going to be with us. Coach Autry is our head coach. We've executed the plan. Any plan that you do, there's some twists and turns to it. But what's most important is the outcome. Chris, we have the right outcome.
Can you explain, I guess, a couple of the ideas for what his role might be moving forward?
He and I are going to meet next week to figure that out. But you know, it's public. We have a $150 million capital campaign for athletics. Hint, hint. Also, just you know, one of the things that we've done that I'm really proud of in the past 12, 18 months is our coaches helping coaches in terms of recruiting. And I really love that. I think we're developing our culture that way. And I think there's unquestionably Coach Boeheim can help our other programs. He's the biggest lacrosse fan there is. You may not know that. That is his favorite sport. He's also at every home football game. So there's a variety of things. So we're going to put him to work. I guarantee you that.
Brent, yeah.
Adrian, I think I speak for everybody when want to know we go in zone or man-to-man.
You know, we'll be versatile. You know, I'm going to do whatever it takes for us to win the game. That's the main goal, is to win the game. So whatever that may be, you know, that's what we'll play.
Mike.
Red, have you had a chance to talk to the players yet and discern their plans to stay or go? Or?
Yes, Mike, I have talked to the players. You see they over there right now. Yes, we've had conversations. As you know, we just finished up our season, so we typically, speak to our guys before they take off and give them a break, and then, we get back, and we'll finish up those discussions as we later go on. But yes, I'm talking to those guys. Anybody miss class today? All right. Yes.
Jesse?
Coach, first of all, congratulations. We had a chance the last couple of days to talk to many of Coach Boeheim's former players, people who have gotten to know you over the years. They've all given you glowing reviews. To know that you already have, won over the minds of some of the alumni, how much easier will that make these first couple of weeks as you transition into this role and hit the recruiting trail and, put your name and put your stamp on this program?
It's important. It builds into when we talk about, the family. And Coach has built a huge family, and Syracuse has built a huge family. And I think, I like to call it the Army, not Otto's Army, but the Orange Army. And that's important, especially when you head out and you go on recruiting trails. It's Orange people, it's Orange fans all over the place. When I go on the road recruiting, I have people come up to me all the time. So I'm excited that they like me right now. And, I'll try to use that to my advantage as much as I can for right now.
I'm sorry, green sweater, I apologize.
Sydney Staples here. You mentioned that you are a new coach, or necessarily you're a new coach with new ideas. What would you say is your vision for the program moving forward?
We want to be versatile on both ends of the floor. You know, we want to be aggressive. We want to get up and down. We want to be, just being able to adapt. And I think that's, you know, for right now, that's kind of where we're starting at. And as we go, we'll adapt to the personnel and what we have. But for right now, you know, the one thing that, you know, we want to do is we definitely want to play in some space and pace and get up and down.
Tommy.
Coach, first, congratulations. This question is for John as well. John, I know you mentioned getting to the right outcome and that you got to the right outcome, but what was it that specifically created that sense of urgency on Wednesday, and would you have liked to have seen it happen maybe a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think Wednesday is Coach Boeheim met with the team back at the hotel post game, informed the team of his decision, and that's coaches do that. You know, oftentimes they have team meetings after a game, and it was obviously a really, really tough loss. And once we knew that information, I thought it was important that we provide clarity, clarity to our fans, clarity to our team in terms of the vision, you know, going ahead for this program. I thought that was important.
Steve.
Adrian, congratulations. You played for Coach Boeheim. You've worked with him now for the last dozen years or so. What has he taught you about what it means to be a head coach? What have you taken from him about what this new role is going to be for you?
It's a lot of things. I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me from Coach is never lowering your standards for your team and your players, and the consistency. You know, those are the two things that stick out to me the most. And coming in and going after it every day.
Yes.
John, this question's for you. How long has this plan for Coach Autry to take over been in place, and why was no statement from Boeheim in the press release?
You know, again, I think we needed to get the statement out, as I said earlier, to provide as much clarity as we possible. Coach and I met before the release went out. Came to I showed him the release in my room. We talked after it went out. You know, the narrative. There's no friction. We've had a lot of conversations over the years, and they've been good, constructive conversations. And part of that, he helped build this plan. You know, I would be crazy not to ask for his input and take his input seriously. And this plan has come to fruition, you know, over the past couple of months. And again, we've arrived at it here today. And today's a really good day because we honor Coach Boeheim, and he's going to be with us. He's going to be with the university with this program. And we also introduce Coach Autry. And we start the next era of Syracuse basketball. So today's a really good day.
Yes, Liv, hand the mic to the gentleman next to you.
Coach, congratulations. Mark Frank, the AP. Obviously, the landscape of college basketball has changed in recent years with NIL and the transfer portal. Can you talk about your philosophy about how aggressive you may or may not be pursuing athletes in the transfer portal?
I mean, that's something that is, like you said, has changed. We'll always look at our team. I'm always look at how we can get better, whether that's a high school player or even at the transfer portal. Those are decisions that we make year after year once the season is over with, and assess everything and see, you know, who we have on our roster, what our roster looks like. But, you know, transfer portal is a great way, as you see now, to get other players to better your team, and obviously we'll use it when we need to.
Chris.
Continuity hires have been very common lately among strong programs. You know, Syracuse is maybe in a little different place in terms of its peak going with a continuity hire. Did you consider a national search, and why not, if not?
You know, Chris, I mean, you know, since I've arrived here, you know, one of the things I've always done is talk to people I respect in the industry, coaches, former coaches, other people really connected. Who's a good coach? Who's an up-and-comer coach? Who, you know, so this is not something that just, you know, that I arrived at, you know, just, you know, recently. A lot of studying over the years. Many of the coaches that I've had on lists over the years have progressed and gone on to other programs. So this is, you know, Adrian, as I said earlier in my remarks, Adrian earned this. Adrian's not here because he's an alum, because he played here, because he's associate head coach here. He's here because I believe he's the best candidate to lead this program and to sustain the success that Coach Boeheim has established over 47 years.
Yes, in the middle.
Coach Autry, congratulations. What do you feel the biggest challenge is for you as you walk in right from the get-go?
You know, I don't really see them right now. We don't have any games to be played right now, but I'm sure it will be some. But I think the biggest thing for me right now is just trying to obviously get out. This is a time that we can get out and be seen with the transition, being more visible. I think, you know, being more visible, and then when these guys get back on campus, you know, building what we want to build going into the future. So, but for right now, I don't really see any big challenges. Again, I've been here. I've been a part of this, so I'm very comfortable and very familiar and understand what needs to happen going forward.
Yes, in the middle there. Yes.
Coach Autry, given that basically your whole roster still has eligibility remaining, what's your message to them to get them to stick with you rather than choose to go elsewhere or go pro or the other opportunities they may have?
I think when you look at this year, and you break it down, you know, we had a ton of close games that we lost, and some of that was due to inexperience. We talked about that going into the season. This is a young team. And I think if we can get all these guys to come back, I think we can really, really put ourselves in a place to be very, very successful next year. I think we want that. I think they want that. You know, we were very disappointed in the outcome of this season, but I think with everybody having eligibility come back, I think that's a big plus, that if they did come back, that we can really do some things and get back to, you know, winning and being where we want to be at. So that's what I talk to these guys about. I think it's a great opportunity, and so we'll see how it plays out.
Brent, last question.
John, I just wanted to clarify. Can you just tell us about the moment this got set in motion? Was it Jim coming to you? Was it that meeting you mentioned there? And do we classify this as a retirement? Is that the official term to put on it?
I think Coach said it, so I'm going to defer to what Coach just said to you a few minutes ago in front of everybody. This is a plan that's been in place for quite a while in terms of a transition and identifying what the right transition is for the program. So this is, again, this is not something that, you know, is recent. This is something we've talked about. We've had really good conversations and, you know, going back, you know, multiple years. So, again, this is where we've arrived at. I think it's a great day because we celebrate Coach Boeheim, and we should. And by the way, for our fans, we will celebrate Coach Boeheim in a big way, okay, in a really big way. He may not like it, but I'll call Julie and she'll make him do it. And we'll have 35,000 people for that game, and we will do it. You thought last week was fun? Wait till you see what we do for Coach Boeheim.
All right, thank you, John, and thank you, everybody. One last time, let's thank Coach Boeheim and welcome Coach Autry.
Wow.
Lots unpackaged there. Heard from John Wildhack, Adrian Autry, Coach Boeheim. A lot of nice words to say, and I think it was very well done. You think about the past, you honor the past and the tradition that was created and upheld by Coach Boeheim, and then introduce Coach Autry, who was with Coach Boeheim, understands the success of this program, understands the just level that it's at, that it was taken to, and how to extend that and continue to build it further.
I don't think it could have gone any better. I mean, I grew up here. I grew up in North Syracuse. I've been following Boeheim and his team my entire life, seeing, you know, the reaction of the community. And honestly, as a Central New Yorker, seeing him go out that way, the way he spoke, the way he got kind of emotional there, I really couldn't ask for any better goodbye from Coach Boeheim.
Part of me wonders, though, if this was rushed a little bit, because Syracuse kind of followed the Duke and UNC plan of continuing the continuity, promoting an assistant or associate head coach to the full coaching role. Coach Brown at North Carolina and Coach Shire at Duke. And Coach Brown won a national championship in his first year, but the Tar Heels kind of struggled this year. And Coach Shire's done pretty well at Duke. They're really heating up at the right time. But I wonder if this should have been a process that was a little bit slower and more of a national search. Coach Wildhack, or John Wildhack, excuse me, said there was a national search kind of going on for years before this process and this plan was played out. And this plan was created with Wildhack and Boeheim, and it was over the course of many years. But I wonder if maybe they should have taken a little bit more time to interview like a Matt Langle at Colgate, a program that beat Syracuse 2 years in a row, and maybe he gets this job. Or just kind of look at guys outside of Syracuse to change it up, because I wonder how much is going to change with Adrian Autry taking this job. He was in Coach Boeheim's system. He played at Syracuse. The results aren't necessarily great. How much is this system going to change with Coach Autry at the helm? I think that's a very big question that this program has to answer, and Coach Autry will have to answer moving forward.
John, I think that's a really great question, but looking at if they were to take that national search, what would the kind of reaction be right here in Syracuse? These people, they wanted somebody in this family. They wanted somebody who bleeds orange. But my first thought is that there is no bad blood between Syracuse University and Coach Jim Boeheim. I mean, he said it himself. These last 2 days that he's been retired have been the best 2 days in the last 47 years. Wildhack spoke so highly of him, and they said that they're all working together in the future. And Boeheim said he's going to be in his office, right around the corner every single day. He's still going to be here. He is still a part of this Syracuse legacy. And Boeheim said it himself, other people left. They went to Paris, they went to California, they went to all these other places. But he stayed right here in Syracuse. And I'm telling you right now, he is going nowhere else.
I think that was really important to clear up, Teagan, and it's a great point because the ending was just so awkward between Coach Boeheim and that press conference and Wildhack and the entire staff. So it was nice that they cleared that up a little bit, gave their thoughts and stuff regarding that. Now, Coach Autry, I think they may have also rushed this process because Syracuse needs to retain talent right now via the transfer portal and the team itself right now. But this guy can bring in some talent. He is one of the best recruiters that Syracuse has had year in and year out since he came to SU at the beginning of the 2011-2012 season. And now as an associate head coach, he's just continued to further that. The names, the laundry list of people that he has recruited and then developed at Syracuse is so long. Here are some of them. Jeremy Grant, Tyler Lydon, Chris McCullough, CJ Fair, Tyler Robeson. All of those guys went on to either NBA careers, G League careers, and there's so many others not on that list that Coach Autry is responsible for.
Yeah, look, I mean, this is one of the positives of having Autry as head coach. He has that track record of recruiting. He has that track record of keeping people here. And it's really the question of, I mean, he was asked it earlier, have you talked to your players about if they're staying, if they're deciding to go? And I mean, he had a good response. He said, he's talked a little bit. He doesn't have too much worry. But honestly, I think I have worries for these players.
Because the starting five next year and really the team is just kind of a question mark because you have guys like Judah Mintz who can go pro. He could transfer to a better program that's in a nice spot to win a national title. Then you've got people like Chris Bell who wasn't necessarily spectacular in his freshman season. And Benny Williams who was very spotty but had the pedigree. Another guy recruited by Coach Autry. Funny enough, I think that's the biggest thing for Coach Autry, not necessarily the recruiting out of high school right now, but keeping the talent on the actual team for Syracuse. But look, he gets it. He was a former McDonald's All-American back in the 90s. He's a Bronx native. He's NYC through and through. He was an AAU coach. He coached at a high school. Then he was an associate coach at Virginia Tech. So he has a lot of connections, and he just understands the recruiting process and really the new era, new age of college basketball, which Coach Boeheim wasn't really a fan of.
Yeah, I mean, leading up to this, people were questioning, is it going to be Autry? Is it going to be McNamara? And, you can argue either way. You can argue for McNamara's, more player connection as somebody who, just had his jersey retired and everything. Or you can argue Autry with all of the coaching experience that he's bringing in. And this is what we're hiring. We hired a coach.
I just feel like Coach Autry has a little bit more experience because he was already a director of basketball operations at Virginia Tech and an assistant coach there under Seth Greenberg, who's an ESPN analyst and was a great college basketball coach. And he's been here a little bit longer. And he's a little bit older as well. That's a tough pick, though, because both were rated very high by ESPN in terms of coaching rankings, assistant coaching rankings. So it's nice to hear that Coach McNamara, at least the plan is that he's going to stay here. This is a guy that is good enough to go to a different program, be a high-level assistant coach somewhere else, or just be a head coach and maybe a mid-major right now.
Yeah, something that was interesting that Boeheim pointed out about Autry, he said that Autry doesn't need a mentor, that he is ready to coach. I mean, That's the highest form of flattery from Boeheim, you know, a guy who doesn't give out many compliments.
Yeah.
If Autry doesn't need a mentor, if Boeheim is saying that if he thinks he's ready, I don't think there should be any doubt in anybody's mind. I don't think people should be saying, you know, he should have chosen, the school should have chosen McNamara over Autry if this is what is being said by Boeheim.
It's a good point, though. I heard that point, that maybe Syracuse implements something like Michigan did a couple years ago when Juwan Howard became the head coach, hiring Phil Martelli, guy who's been coaching college basketball for years, as kind of that guy that helps Howard ease his way into a head coaching role and can be an associate coach that kind of is like, hey, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. But Coach Boeheim, to your point, said Coach Autry doesn't need that. He knows what to do. He earned this job. He worked his way up the coaching ladder. He didn't even start in coaching. He went and played overseas professionally. He came back, and he kind of just had a desk job, a 9-to-5, whatever. He's like, hey, I wanted to get into coaching, Coach. And he told him to go be an AAU coach, go to the high school levels. And he just worked his way up over the years, assistant coach to associate head coach. Now he's the head coach here, so he gets.
Yeah, you know, he tried real estate at
That's
first.
what it was.
That was what he tried, and then he just said, you know what? No, this isn't for me. Coaching is my career. Coaching is my life, and that's somebody that you need. You need somebody like Boeheim or like Autry who are going to dedicate everything they have into this. And I mean, Autry talked about how young this team is this year, and we knew that going into the season. We knew that having a young team would result in, you know, like in those early games, lots of fouls, lots of issues with fights on court and everything.
Yeah.
We knew this was going to happen. But you know what? Going into next season, if these players choose to stay, I really think it could grow a lot, especially under Autry.
I agree. They all seem to like him, and a lot of them were probably recruited by Autry.
Absolutely.
And he's Syracuse through and through. I think Coach Boeheim mentioned this. A couple years ago, he had the opportunity to go somewhere else and coach somewhere else. He probably had an offer to a big school.
Right.
He didn't take it, though. He stayed at Syracuse. And again, he played at SU in the early 90s. I read one thing. He played for 2 years at Syracuse on a bad Achilles. And he was still unbelievable. 6th in program history and career assists. He still played every game. So someone that's gritty, hard-nosed, and again, bleeds orange. I love it.
Yeah, and I mean, speaking about the Syracuse community, you need someone that bleeds orange. I don't know how much time you spend on Syracuse Twitter, but people like Cuse Waterboy, Orange Chuck, like these are the people that are going to be looking into who's going to be this head coach. Who is Autry? How is he going to impact the community? What is he going to do for us as fans? Boeheim gave his biggest thank you of the day to the fan base right here in Syracuse, and that's what you need going forward. You need those fans on your side, because Boeheim said it, the fans, they are this program.
Yeah, no, completely agree. And he said the first thing he wants to do is get out in the community, be more active, and show his face more. So.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to go to our live reporter, John Dales. He's there right now. You know, John, obviously you've been here. You went through that entire press conference. But what was the emotion like when Boeheim was speaking? What was the reaction? I mean, he got really emotional himself, it seemed like.
Yeah, that's 100% right, Teagan. And good morning, guys. It was an emotional press conference a number of times. The 2 times that really stuck out to me when Jim was talking was one, he choked up for a couple of seconds when he was talking about his wife, Julie, just about how she's been the best wife that a basketball coach could ask for. And Jim also said all the success that happened here at this program, it wouldn't have been possible without her. And then the second one was when Jim was talking about when he first got to SU. He pointed over in the direction of Manley Fieldhouse and he said when he first got here at the age of 17, that was just a dirt practice field and the basketball team had lost 20 plus in a row. He mentioned that he, you know, we've heard Jim talk about it before, is coming to Syracuse and wanting to stay here, and that's what's got him choked up a little bit. So it was emotional a number of times. Coach Autry even was emotional talking about what Jim had meant to him. So there were a number of times like that where, you know, people had to stop and compose themselves a little bit.
John, great choice with the tie today. Love the red for Red Autry. I think that may have been play, maybe it wasn't. But either way, a lot of players in attendance. You kind of gave us your list beforehand. Some of the guys that we heard were not there, at least at the beginning, were Judah Mintz. I think he did end up showing up to the press conference, but haven't heard about Benny Williams or Chris Bell. So can you kind of lay out who was and was not there and what the players' reaction was when everybody was speaking?
Yeah, John, first of all, red is the new orange, so that's what went into the tie color there. But you're right, Judah Mintz did show up late, and the other 2 guys that you mentioned, from what I saw, Benny Williams and Chris Bell were the only 2 players from this year's team that were missing. And what's interesting about that is John Bolajak, who's the only player on this team who's already entered the transfer portal, he was there along with the rest of the team. So the players didn't talk, they didn't, you know, make themselves available to the media. But they all were there, and Coach Autry had talked about meeting with the players as well, about them being all in on going forward. That the plan, or at least Coach Autry's hope, was that everybody comes back next year, given that they all have eligibility as well, eligibility remaining. So that was a big talking point. To be honest, the players, like I said, didn't talk. What I did notice is I got here along with our photographer, Andrew Selliver. We got here about an hour before the doors even opened. The first player that was here was Joe Girard, who just finished his senior year and obviously has one more year of eligibility left. So that was interesting, I think, of note. Joe Girard, a leader on this team, was the first one here an hour before the press conference even started.
Well, thanks, John. That's quite interesting. Yeah, Joe Girard does have that extra year. Some people speculating, will he come back? Will he go pro? Will he go somewhere else? We'll have to see. But thanks so much for the time. Really appreciate your insight. All right, back with you in the CitrusTV studios with now Chile Dele, Teagan Brown. I'm John Eads. Chile, very exciting morning in the Syracuse community, and a lot of change just kind of out of nowhere. But what does this hire mean to the Syracuse community and basketball fans, and what does Coach Boeheim leaving also mean to those people as well?
You know, I think that Coach Boeheim leaving is an interesting note to start on, because it is really a legacy thing. We know that where Coach Adrian Autry was introduced today was the Mello Center, and that doesn't happen without Jim Boeheim, right? That doesn't happen without him being here for all these years and Syracuse winning that national championship with Carmelo Anthony in 2003. So as you're looking at this press conference this morning, the introduction of the new guard of Coach Autry into this program, you kind of look back at what Jim Boeheim left for Central New York, for the state of New York. Let's not forget, Syracuse isn't just a Syracuse team, or there's a lot of people in Rochester, Buffalo, all throughout Western and Central New York, even towards the capital region and even towards the city, that root for this team. For a while, Syracuse advertised itself as New York's college team because in a lot of ways, Jim Boeheim brought the program to that.
You know, I was talking to a former player yesterday, Dante Green. He played in 2007, 2008, and he said no matter where you go, if he's wearing Syracuse stuff, if he says the word Syracuse, everybody knows Jim Boeheim. They know Syracuse. They know the history of this program. That's really what Autry is stepping into. This is a historic, well-known, world-known program, not just right here, you know, in the 100 miles surrounding or whatever.
And it's shocking for me, right? Because I come from a very big sports town, Philadelphia. You know, obviously the Eagles, the Phillies, the Flyers, Sixers are big teams there, but I'd never seen the kind of college fandom. And for so many people here, they live and they die by this team. And, you know, I can always liken it to the Eagles. If the Eagles win or lose on a Sunday, you can tell the pulse of the city by walking into the Wawa on the next day. I'm sure you can go to a Burn Dairy here or anywhere, Wegmans, and tell the pulse of the region after a Syracuse basketball game, after a Syracuse football game. So it shows you how much that 2003 national championship meant. I think going from the game against Georgia Tech to that game against Wake Forest and seeing the difference in crowd, they know, the fans realize how much that 2003 national championship meant to them. And that's why they showed out in the numbers they did for that 20-year anniversary.
Well, that was an excellent day and a very, very well done commemoration of that team. And I like how you mentioned the pulse of this team. It's always gray here in Syracuse, but after Syracuse loses a game, it's like even more gray, which I didn't think was possible. Now, Chile, what excites you most about this hire, Adrian Autry?
I think looking at it, and let's take that campus angle again, right? There's a lot of people. This university, there's a lot of students who buy the tickets, right? There's a lot of students who buy the season passes, who go to the games. But frankly, like you talk about that game against Georgia Tech, and not that many students, not that many fans showed up. And usually if it's a Tuesday game like that, you may see a little bit more of a crowd. I think it was under 10,000 at the final meter. So I think what excites me is that for the students on this campus, there may be some reinvigoration to caring a little bit more about the program going forward. And, you know, there's a lot of people who are just about to turn seniors. Obviously, that happens every year, but it's about to bring, I think, a lot more excitement into this team. And this is a team that can compete, right? If a lot of these guys stay, guys like Judah Mintz and whatnot, there's a lot of competition on this team. This team could go far in March Madness next year, in my opinion. I think it's just all about how they grow from the first year moving to the next.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen over the last few years the student section grow, you know, in part because of Otto's Army. But, you know, overall, people are going to come to the game because they love Syracuse. Students here want to go. They want to cheer on their team. They want to be a part of it. And we're joined now by John Perrick. John, so you went and you talked to students. You talked to people in the community. You talked to professors. Kind of tell us a little bit about what their reaction was to not only Boeheim leaving, but Autry coming in as head coach.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, first off, good morning, guys. And what we heard yesterday, just talking to people, was that we've got a large array and mixed emotions here. People don't really know how to deal with this because this was a day that everyone saw coming. We all knew it was going to come. We counted our blessings over the year, but we knew Jim Boeheim was going to step down. And so there's no real recipe to deal with this reality. There's no way to deal with these emotions. And when it comes to students, there's definitely a lot of happiness on campus because many students here, all they've seen is losing record last year. Syracuse misses the tournament this year. Outside of 2021, Syracuse has not been a real contender in college basketball. But now with a whole entire coaching change, that might just change as well. So a lot of students definitely somewhat happy, and they want to see that zone defense go. But right now, let's just take a look at what students have to say about Adrian Autry becoming the next head coach.
I'm happy. I'm excited for the new coach, who was the previous assistant coach.
I think they'll have a couple down years, but I think Autry can get them back to where they were at one point.
I think Syracuse has a brand and an identity that's going to help itself, get started super fast in post-Boeheim era.
I'm just excited for what he has to bring to the team and new plays and who he's going to bring into the team, recruit. And I'm just excited to start winning again.
It's been a great 31 years, but we need a championship. It's been 20 years since then, so I think that Syracuse basketball program is doing the right thing now. So.
Wow, definitely some strong reactions there. And Syracuse is more than just the current students right now, us sitting at the desk, the huge alumni network, the people who, like I said, interact on Twitter, they come back, they visit, they go to games, people that chose to stay in Syracuse because they loved it so much. What is the reaction of, that group, Ben?
Right, and that's, I think, that's the real story here. It's for 47 years, this is all many members of Central New York have known. This has been the reality, and a lot of fans they've taken to Twitter, as you said, just to express the fact that, okay, well, where do we go from here? Because Jim Boeheim, he wasn't just a basketball coach. He put Central New York on the map. And I think that's something that's very important to look at here. There is no other school or basketball program in the country that would say 20,000 fans is a bad crowd. Only here in Syracuse. And that's the Jim Boeheim effect. He put Syracuse on the map, and he's really transformed this program in ways that we haven't seen before. And just a great example, I thought, the Manley Fieldhouse, or the formerly known Manley Fieldhouse, that's where the presser was at today. That's where Coach Boeheim coached for his first 4 years. And there, 10,000 fans was a good crowd. And then he went to the Carrier Dome, and the rest is history. So Syracuse basketball, a new day is dawned for Syracuse basketball. But this community, I think there's no doubt about it, they will not forget the legacy that Jim Boeheim left behind.
Something, former assistant coach Mike Hopkins said in his own press conference, a couple days ago. He said that Syracuse University is not Syracuse University without the Carrier Dome and Jim Boeheim. And now both of those things are gone.
Those two go together, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Together. Yeah.
I think one of the most interesting things, too, just talking about how long Jim Boeheim has been here, when I first talked about to my father about getting to Syracuse University and going, one of the things he mentioned was the fact that, they still have that Boeheim. Or you walk to anybody around the street, where I'm from, 4 hours away, and of course, Syracuse and Villanova used to face off against each other all the time when they were in the Big East. It was that idea of, Jim Boeheim's still there, Jim Boeheim's still there. Jim Boeheim had been the coach of Syracuse men's basketball for longer than my father had been in this country. Obviously, it's been longer than we've all been alive.
Yes.
But the fact that my father was born, emigrated from Nigeria over here, and throughout all that time he's been here, Jim Boeheim predates my father's arrival in this country. That, when you put it all in perspective, that's just crazy. That's an amazing thing in terms of longevity.
Adrian Autry, the first head coach for Syracuse basketball since Coach Boeheim. So there hasn't been a separate coach at Syracuse other than Coach Boeheim since March 13th, 1976. Since then, 17,161 days have spanned till we're here. Wow. And now Adrian Autry takes over. By the way, he's nicknamed Red. We mentioned this before.
Yes,
we couldn't
fun
get
fact.
the picture.
Yep.
We do have the picture of Adrian Autry with his red hair. There it is. So he was at a 5-star camp in high school. He grew up in New York City in the Bronx, and he had that red hair. Lawrence Moten said that that's kind of how he got his nickname, and that carried on from the city to Syracuse. So very cool.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a redhead, so I've got to cheer on another redhead,
Yeah.
right? That's just
Yeah.
like logic. But no, I'm very excited. Final thoughts, I'm pretty gosh darn excited for the future of this program. I'm a senior, I'm graduating this year, so I will say on the one hand, I'm very glad that Boeheim's last year is my senior year. I think that's really nice. And on the other hand, I'm really excited to come back next year just to see what he does.
Wish it went a little bit better for us, though. We had the COVID year.
Yeah.
The Sweet 16 run was nice. The last 2 years have been rather tough, though. So perhaps to greener pastures in the future.
Yeah. Only if we could have a year like 2003, right?
I mean, this
Fifth
week,
year, you know?
This week is just filled with where were you when moments, right?
Yeah.
We talk about here at Citrus TV, obviously, like a lot of journalists will think about these kinds of things. Where were you when in the big moments in history? You know, for a lot of us, sitting in the newsroom or sitting or walking to class or doing your hair when you're seeing the news come down is a moment you're never going to forget. And it's definitely, it's going to be a seismic shift for this program. But at the same time, there's just so much emotion that's come with this week and being here for it all that it's just hard to put into words at times.
Right, and Chalet, I think just on that note, there's a lot of emotion, and this is something Autry can't forget here. He's got a bit of a tough job here because, yes, we heard from this.
You never want to be the guy that comes after the guy, and that's him.
Exactly, and we heard from all the students on campus, they're a little tired of the zone defense and whatnot, but there's a lot of alums out there that live and die by Boeheim. And so I think for Autry here, he has to be a little bit more of a politician almost. You're not going to please everyone, but you can definitely get a lot of people on your side here. And it's a new era for Syracuse basketball. Of course, when it comes to the whole NIL, Boeheim was vocally against it, saying that he was never going to pay players. But I think if Syracuse is going to compete at the national level again, they're going to have to enter this new college basketball world.
And with the JMA Wireless Dome, you know, being transformed, we come here as freshmen, you and I, John, the trust goes up. And then we start to see those renovations start to trickle in. And, you know, by 2024, down the line here, a lot of the benches we have are going to become full-on seats. And then the victory court that's also planned between the Barnes Center and the Dome. There is a lot changing with SU athletics. Cosmetically, in terms of people leading programs, it's been a lot in a couple of years to talk about how much this university has changed. And we talk about the alumni that come back and they come and watch these games. And there's some kind of nostalgia that people always have, whether it's the sports teams, whether it's people going on Marshall Street and still like seeing Chuck's comeback or something like that. There's a lot of nostalgia. And I think new era also means that a lot of that nostalgia may go away, or people coming back may feel more of that because it's not necessarily the same Syracuse they always knew.
Yeah,
Or
I mean,
perhaps new era.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've got 47 years of Boeheim content that we could talk about. We have the entire future that we could talk about, but sadly we can't talk all day long. So, you know, a thank you to Coach Boeheim, I think, is pretty valid from all of us. So thank you so much for joining us, and that's it for the Citrus TV News Special Report. Adrian Autry, formally introduced as the head coach of Syracuse men's basketball, replacing Jim Boeheim after 47 years at the helm of the Orange.
And don't forget to follow us on our Citrus TV News and Citrus TV Sports social media platforms. I'm John Eads.
And I'm Teagan Brown. Have a great rest of your morning.